All right, looks like we're good to go. Um, Tonight we're going to be reading Daily Bread, issue 4. This is story time. This was the first Daily Bread I ever owned, and I don't think this is the actual copy. It might have been. I might have purchased this Daily Bread back in 1994. This was game-changing for us. This was the first issue that I ever read, and this was our first real exposure to aggressive. Like, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were jumping around, kicking things, doing stairs, the sort of things that you find yourself doing if you find kids doing, at the skate park now that don't have rollerbladers to look up to. They haven't learned how to grind. They don't know how to set up their skates right. So what do? They jump over stuff and they do 180s. Maybe they do a 360 and they kick things. That's really all they do. And they do the one-footed daffy, the 1 foot, one wheel in the front, one wheel in the back, because that's all they can think of. This was the first glimpse into what was possible for us. We had no idea that this sort of stuff was possible. And what an issue. So on the cover, we've got Dave Ortega, who I think was credited as David Fishburne. Actually, Dave Ortega. I'm pretty sure it's Dave Ortega. I'll have to find out when I get in there. Doing a soul grind at the Brooklyn Banks. You can look at his skates. He's got the lazy leg straps in the back. He's riding some Tarmac CEs, probably. They're a little shiny. Maybe not Tarmacs. Maybe those are just Lightnings, but they're shiny ones. He's got the chain wallet. He's got the baggy pants with the frayed bottom of the cuffs. This was very different than what we were seeing with rollerblading in the past. Because remember, the only other exposure that anybody had was through this magazine called Inline. And Inline was everything. It was aggressive, it was speed, it was fitness. And this Daily Bread was only aggressive. And all we saw was people dressed up as you would expect them to be dressed up in the 90s, with the spandex and or if they were skating aggressive, they were skating vert, they were Chris Edwards. And they had the jean or the baggy shorts with the big boneless knee pads. And then you see this guy, and he's like, first he's on a rail, which we'd never seen before. And he's doing a soul grind on a rail, which obviously we'd never seen before. We didn't even think that you could do anything like that. Like, why would you? Like, we probably did stalls, like frontside stalls. But being able to jump on soul on a handrail, that's huge. Yeah, so what a cover. This was the beginning of the next generation of skating. People say, what generation are you from? I always consider the first generation the one before grinds. Frontsides don't really count. Maybe little wheels counted, but the difference between little wheel grinding and doing soul tricks, maybe a year. That generation, though, incredible. So many things were invented around here. Inside cover. Oh, is the video... It seems like the audio is a little off. My computer's struggling tonight. I'm not sure why. See if I can catch up. Apologize if it's a little behind. It's mostly an audio show, so you should be fine. I'll try to make sure that I don't make any sudden movements. Inside cover is an ad for PI Rags. PI Rags, again, I never really heard of. I think it was a New York thing. And they had an ad in the last issue of Daily Bread which was Mark Shays, I think, doing a front side or something. Recycling, mass transit, violence, the daily grind, New York City. No horrible skaters, just clothing. Don't really know what that means. But, so this is Dave Ortega again, who told them his name was David Fishburne. Maybe it was Fishburne, and he just went by Ortega. I honestly don't know. Doing an alley-oop soul. And I think we saw an alley-oop soul in the last issue, Arlo doing it, and it was more like a soyal. This one was not. This was more like an actual alley-oop soul. And we couldn't figure out which way his legs were going because you can't really see with the jeans. Like, how is he doing this? How is he contorting his legs like that? We couldn't figure it out. Very strange time when you couldn't figure out what grind they were doing. Boneless. Choose boneless pads. Make your choice. Dear Boneless, I really like your pads, plus people like C. Edwards, C. Mitchell, and P. Parnell use them. So I really would like to know how I can get my hands on some. I've looked everywhere in Minneapolis with no luck, and I'm sick of hearing salesmen telling me, here, these Rectors are better, buy these. I hate Rector. Please send me whatever catalogs and other info you have. Thanks. Adam something. That's nice of him, of Adam. Skater run, skater owned. Boneless. Awesome. Full page too. I don't know what the full page ads cost back in these days, but probably weren't cheap. Letters. Still no mention of a date. I don't know when this was published. Angie Walton, Jess Deerenforth, Arlo Eisenberg. A lot of weird words. Swell Girl, Judy Elms. Contributing writers Chris Edwards, Brooke Howard Smith, and Terry Jenkins. Contributing photographers Carlos Cole, Hector Batts, Lisa Blackman, James Newman, Dan Joyce. A lot of the stuff covered in Daily Bread magazine carries with it significant risk of personal injury or death. Daily Bread magazine, including its owners, writers, photographers, and other staff and management, does not recommend that anyone participate in these sports unless they are experts, seek qualified professional instruction or guidance, are knowledgeable about the risks, and are willing to personally assume all responsibility associated with those risks. Also, the views herein are those of the writers and do not necessarily reflect those of the magazine's management or ownership, although the editor, Angie Walton, will inevitably be blamed for anything and everything associated with inline skating in general. We're all so wasted, dude. All right. This, an interesting one. Letters. So they got letters, and people used to write into magazines, and sometimes magazines would publish their letters. The letters were answered by Chris Edwards. Dear Daily Bread, I'm not going to write a big old long letter. I just want to say that Daily Bread kicks. Now that I found a rad mag like this, I ain't going to ever let it go. Live and Die Extreme with an X. Ron Cordry Cabrera and Eric Too Late Lazar from Downey, California. Corduroy and Too Late, your letter kicks. Now that I found it, I had to write you back. Thanks for the support. Keep skating with an 8, as you do. Chris Edwards. Hello, people from Daily Bread Mag. Congratulations for more One Nice... Oh, this is going to be fun. Congratulations for more One Nice issue number 3, the blue one, and for the wonderful work you have done to our sport progress. My name is Claudius Luz, and I'm in holiday in USA, Hawaii, and Australia last week. I've been skating since last April, vert and street, and I love inline skate, so when I got here, I did bring my blads afterward. I don't know that I want to read this one. It sounds like he is very happy to be skating and writing a letter about it. The PDF of this is available in the show notes, and I encourage you, if you're interested in reading this one, please do. It's very hard to read. We two, side by each, are glad to hear such wonderful things about many German hardcore bladders. Keep it up. That one not answered by Chris Edwards. Dear Daily Bread, thanks. I'm really happy to see an extreme magazine dedicated to skating. I feel like I'm connected. You broke the ice. Daily Bread magazine is a collector's item. It is a collector's item. And I have one. Dear Daily Bread, I'd like to subscribe to your magazine. I really like it. I was about to subscribe to Inline when I realized it sucked. Who cares about hockey and nice, tight, fluorescent speed skating? Street skating is what it is all about. I'd like to know more about Senate Cosmo and dealers who don't just order cutesy stuff. From Cesar Cordova, Mexicali, Baja California. I think I'm going to skip this next one. I don't really think reading other people's letters is super important, so I'm not going to. Next page. Trying to save my voice. This is a long 48 pages of this Daily Read, so the less reading the better. Table of nonsense, all the different things. Inside scoop, travel, letters, locals, Sublime, desert, wheels, girls, Eitan Kramer, how-to, and ramp jam. All right, so this is a 2-page spread. On the left, we have Brooke doing a soul grind at, I think that's UCLA. And the man on the ground behind him has 5-wheel skates, I believe. Otherwise, it's skates with a brake. And that looks like 5-wheel skates. So bizarre. Anyway, Brooke doing a soul grind. And then another picture. Soul grinds have revolutionized our sport. They are the first truly unique, truly stylish trick modern street skating has produced. The name says it all. Art Givagan above, soling around the elbow at Moreno Valley, and Brooke Howard Smith doing an unnatural soul at UCLA. I guess I was switched for him. Left foot. Yeah, I think he did mostly right feet. I have an eyelash in my eye. Apologize. But yeah, like I was saying, the soul grind was huge. What a different trick than any other sport at the time. Very cool. Cool shot too. Brian Kanoski drives a silver truck. He also spray painted his skates silver. Picturesque silver rail in El Segundo High School. Brian Kanoski was one of the guys that helped start Senate. He is now a photographer, really great photographer, does a lot of car photos. He did a ton of photography back in the days as well. And before that, he was a rollerblader, and he skated. I think he was sponsored by Senate for a while. Fun fact, the silver skates, my friend Jason Marshall spray painted his skates silver after reading this and had silver skates for a long time. It was a really good look. I don't think there's any silver skates lately, or gold skates for that matter. I guess those Eislers are silver, aren't they? The Richie Eislers, I think they're silver. In the last issue of Daily Bread, Manuel was in locals only. Now he's got a full-page shot. Beautiful mute fakie. Belconnen Skate Park in Canberra, Australia. That's a beautiful mute fakie. The Pizza Hut in the background. It's nice. So many vert ramps everywhere. There were just vert ramps as wide as the eye can see. I never had a public vert ramp. I don't know anybody that did. There's a few parks that did in the U.S., but it seemed like they were everywhere in Australia. I'm not sure why. Black hole bearings. So tonight I am enjoying some scotch again. This is a Monkey Shoulder blended malt scotch whiskey. This is, I actually had this, but it was one of the scotches that was recommended. It is one of the few sub $40 scotches that you can find that isn't bad. It's not great. It's not as smooth as a Macallan or something Johnny Walker Red or something, but it is a nice, it's a nice scotch. And yeah, it's $40, $35 or so. Monkey Shoulder. Inside scoop. Oh, I'm sorry, black hole bearings. We didn't talk about this. Same ad repeated. They've probably had the same ad in the last 3 episodes. I don't know why companies didn't change their ads. It seems like a missed opportunity. It's an expensive ad, I'm sure. Switch it up a little bit. Inside scoop. NYC's Queen of Street, Kate Gengo, is getting married. Heartbroken Eddie Campos is leaving the East Coast for LA. I don't know that they were dating, but maybe they were. Eddie Campos was a vert skater as well, New York vert skater. We didn't really know much about him, but I remember seeing him skating a lot. He was really good. I think he skated for FR. Team Rollerblade dance member was spotted wearing blade gear on 90210. Don't know him. I don't know who that was. And I haven't watched 90210 since it first came out. It's interesting how some of the shows people watch over and over and over again. 90210 was not one of those shows. It was when I was in high school, so 92, 93, it was a show that was kind of designed for the tween set, young adult set, about kids going to high school. And it got really dramatic, which was fun. Hufter magazine out of Amsterdam is preparing a video zine. The Hufter crew, led by the man with the master plan, Appleman, promises Hufter will remain the most hardcore, uncensored mag in the world. Dupe for info, call Rodolfo's, blah, blah, blah. I never heard of Hufter. I don't know if it ever came out. If it did, I don't know that it ever made it to the U.S. If it did, I'm sure that it didn't make it to my area because I'd never heard of it. Overheard Crankstraps of Australia may have a lawsuit pending against Lazy Legs for ripping off their unique heel tightener design. Crankstraps are now available in the U.S. Legal battles at all eras. Always a fight for who came up with it first. Inline Magazine's positive role model, Aaron Spahn, punched neighbor in the face over a girl. Aaron Spahn of Spahn Ranch, punching neighbors. All ramps at Jeff Phillips Skate Park in Dallas, Texas have been resurfaced. Remaced, it says. The park has been reopened as Rapid Revolutions. There will be a pro demo on May 28th. Remaced, I'm assuming, is masonite. I've been looking into that for my mini ramp in my backyard, and people say that as soon as there is a rain, the ramps will swell and you will not be able to skate them anymore. So I don't know why anybody would put masonite outside, but it seems like what they did, and maybe they just replaced the masonite a lot. I'm not sure. Playgirl has shown interest in running a feature on the men of Spahn Ranch. Huh. All right. Word has it Jeremy is the second highest paid skater in the world. I don't know who Jeremy is. A lot of these are inside scoops, but more inside jokes that don't land, I guess, outside. 6 dead and several wounded holding on to cars in Puerto Rico. Helmet laws have been passed to try to curb the problem. I'm wondering if that means people were holding on to cars when they were riding skates. That's probably a bad thing to do. Many of the world's top pros have confirmed that they will compete in the National Inline Skate Series, set to begin in July. So this was NIS, the first big comp, and set to begin in July means that this is pre-94. That was 1994 NIS, which is interesting. Kind of puts a time to this, even though I haven't been able to find a time for when this magazine came out. Probably early 94. I didn't see a date. No, early 94. Rumblings of a contest in Japan to be held in the near future, courtesy of Japan's infamous SSA. We talked about that last episode of this show. The Groove and Poso Beat Factory is about to illuminate the industry again with a follow-up to Dare to Air. The Bottom Line. It will be released in June of 94. Bottom Line was a great video. If you haven't seen Bottom Line, it's one of my favorites from this era. East Coast skater Shura McComb previewed his new hardcore video magazine, Community Service, at the SIA trade show in Vegas. It's coming out this summer. Get it. I never saw Community Service. I don't know that video ever made it. If it did, I don't know about it. Rollerblade's 5 contracted team members for 1994 are Chris Edwards, Jimmy Trimble, Mark Shays, Chris Garrett, and Alan Vano. Way to go, guys. You finally made the big time. It's good. Crazy guy Ivano Gigliardo will be holding an international inline contest in his hometown of Lausanne, Switzerland. So that's probably the beginning of the Lausanne contests that were super famous back in this era. $15,000, no, this is not a misprint, in prize money should lure the world's top skaters. I think that it did. 4 of Sydney, Australia's top skaters are in St. Louis doing shows for Groove Productions. Look for pics in the next episode. Prediction: INS polls say that 1 in 4 Australians will immigrate to the US in 94. Maybe not. Number 1 pro BMX ramp rider Jay Miron is now pulling face-high airs on inlines. It's good. I don't know that people hated inline back then because we weren't super big. I think people really started hating inline when we started getting big, and that's when we were taking their market share, and they were like, you guys are a bunch of jerks. Santa Rosa show boasts pro skateboarder Tony Hawk, pro BMXer Mac Hoffman, and the skating antics of Chris Edwards and other top pros. Groove's Atlanta show featured the skateboarding of Mike Frazier, the riding of Rick Thorne, and the skating of Arlo Eisenberg, Jess Deerenforth, Pat Parnell, and newcomer Mike Giacenti. The rumors that Chris Edwards named his clothing company Birth because his wife Ida was pregnant are not true. She is now, though. The baby is due sometime this December. Congratulations to Chris and Ida. I don't know that Chris and Ida are still together, but I do know that Chris has like 10 kids now, which he just never stops having kids. He has a lot of kids. It was a really good mushroom blading interview with Chris that I recommend that you listen to. Also, he was on the Powell Street podcast and talked to Mike Powell about it, getting back into the history of rollerblade and how crazy the money was and all of the kids. The widely publicized and phenomenally photographed YMCA skate park in Encinitas is looking for sponsors to help keep the ramp in top form and support the youth programs. This is worthwhile, so tell your local company. I don't know if they ever did, but it was an amazing skate park. I was able to skate there a few times. After they took down the bowl, though, unfortunately, I wasn't able to skate that old street course. It was probably the phase 2 or phase 3 of their skate park. Puerto Rico versus Chris Edwards. This is the story of one of the best experiences I have had during my professional travels. As Chris Edwards, it is still going, right? Let me make sure, since we had some problems with the audio. Is the audio doing better? Anybody in the chat? I know that I'm on a delay, but I'd love to hear the audio and everything is in sync. I don't know that it is. Who knows? This is the story of one of the best experiences I have had during my professional travels. As Chris Mitchell, Brooke Howard-Smith, Pat Parnell, my beautiful wife Ida, and myself walked down the halls of the Puerto Rico airport towards baggage claim, anticipation began to build. Where is Danny, the gimme-a-break friend whom we only briefly met over the phone? As we exited the airport, we were greeted by a huge sign saying, "Welcome to Puerto Rico," with our names printed on it. The sign was held up by extremely friendly faces, which I assumed was Danny and friends. We then went to dinner and called it a night. The next morning we were to go to Danny's shop for autograph signing, but first we had to go surfing. Danny had fixed me up a sweet board, which I couldn't wait to use. I paddled out behind Danny so that I wouldn't get stung by the sea urchins. I caught my first wave, which sent me straight to my face onto the reef. I then began to paddle back out to shore because I realized I can't surf. I didn't know what to expect from the autograph signing. I had only heard that my video Dare to Air had sold very well down there. When we got to the shop, there were at least a couple hundred kids waiting for us. We were about 2 hours late, which I was informed was the Puerto Rican way. Therefore, we had to hurry and set up. We were now set up and ready to bring on the kids that they had to lock out of the store. As I yelled, "Tres más, por favor." I don't know what that means. I don't speak Spanish. I was amazed that every kid either had a video, Daily Bread, or box mag, which only proved my theory that street and ramp skating was indeed entering into its own identity and culture, which had better be recognized. The next day was the contest, the real reason we were flown down there. "Keep him in the car. Do not let him out. Just keep him in the car," was all me and Ida could hear as we pulled up to the contest 2 hours late. There were at least 5,000 people at the contest, and about 1,000 of them rushing the car I was in. As the car shook, the security guards made a path for me and Ida to pass. The crowd pushed and shoved us the whole way to the tent. I could call my safe haven for the next 10 hours. As I reached the tent, the only thing I could do was begin signing the thousands of shirts, hats, bags, stolen signs, and skates that were shoved into my face. I finally got a chance to slip into my skates and head to the rather rickety 8-foot ramp that the locals had built the night before. When I reached the top, the crowd of 5,000 began to scream, and I hadn't even dropped in yet. I tried to excite the crowd with big airs, a few McTwists, and double Oridas. I don't know what that is. I was extremely tired after skating the ramp all day, but I had to go check out the street course, which had been exploding all day with the biggest screams of onlookers. I went to the course to find out it was in worse condition than the halfpipe, so all I did was roll around to check out the scene. Not in the mood to skate anymore, I just did a little flip off the launch ramp, which was followed by an enormous boo, the same one that Brooke had received at the halfpipe just hours before. Feeling like I had to prove something, I charged the launch ramp to do none other than a flip again, because after all, a flip is what makes you a true skater in the eyes of the ignorant public. Very true. We were talking earlier about the kid who doesn't know how to skate, doesn't know any of the tricks. The only thing you can think of, can you do a flip? That's why they ask, can you do a flip? The ramp lacked some kick, which then sent me into slow rotating flip, which I somehow pulled the fakie, which Brooke still can't get over to this day. Suddenly the guy who just won the contest followed me with an answering flip, which sent the crowd into a major uproar. My goodness, he is just as good as Chris Edwards. So began the most bizarre skating challenge I had ever been in, since this was after all the only one I'd ever been in. Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico was all that could be heard as the local hero, Jorge, sliced through the thousands of people who had gathered to see who would be triumphant. Jorge yanked a flip onto the fun box. The crowd went wild. It went crazy. My turn, so the crowd went silent as they moved out of the way just enough so that I could pass through them to do a flip up and over the fun box. The crowd went nuts. Yes, I thought to myself, this crazy thing can end, so I can go eat and go to bed. Instead of ending, the nut charged right after me. Puerto Rico was in the air as he flipped the box and cleared the box. He is as good as Chris Edwards, was whispered back and forth. Not knowing how the crowd would react to a real trick, I nervously approached the ramp with a mute to late 360, or mute to late 180. They loved it. Next was Jorge. He popped up a nice method air. The crowd liked it, but as I did a huge upside down 540, the crowd realized that my 7 years of experience would be triumphant. Relieved at that point, I did a few more tricks, including a stale Japan to late 180, 360s, and a couple more 540s. This had been the most fun I'd ever had on a trip. Thanks to Danny, Jose Cuervo, and everyone else from Danny's surf shop. Thank you guys for everything. Jorge, it was real. Keep ripping. See you all soon, Chris Edwards. It's a nice story. So some of the pictures, Puerto Rican local front flip downstairs. And yes, he pulls it. Front flips downstairs are very strange to me. I don't know. I've never done a flip on rollerblades. I don't know why it would be difficult to do a front flip on stairs. It's kind of like rolling down the stairs, but putting your feet down. But it never even crossed my mind to do it. Crowd at the contest. Lots of people hanging out. And then this one is pretty gnarly. So this is Chris Edwards' Gap to Rail in Puerto Rico. This, and chat room, correct me if I'm wrong, this has got to be the rail that Montre destroys in Monte Rico, which was a video that came out just a little bit ago. He does like a 540 Royale or something like that, 360 Ali Soul, I don't even remember. Just destroys this rail. It's awesome seeing this 25 years later in a Montre video and seeing how far skating has progressed, with Chris Edwards doing arguably something that most people nowadays wouldn't do, which is just a gap to front side. Yeah, it's iconic spot in Puerto Rico. It's awesome to see that it's still there too. A sequence shot, maybe our first sequence shot of this one, but a sequence of a bunch of people on top of each other. That was new then. Michael Palak skating the Laguna Bowl. Fakie 270 to frontside planner, rewind 270 off. It's a big trick. He's wearing a FR shirt. Michael Palak. It's a big trick. That's a crazy ledge too to frontside, especially 270 to frontside. And then Ivano Gigliardo with a twist McFlip. I don't know what that means. I don't even know if he pulled it. It seems like he probably fell at the end, but maybe he didn't. All right. Some more ads for Rodolfo's, which isn't everywhere. They're the huge shop in the Netherlands. Skate Underground ad, same Skate Underground ad. They don't change up the pictures. Picture of Inline Rollerworks. Inline Rollerworks is a lot of fun. They have skating ramps. They also have hockey stuff and rollerblades. Mick Altman Dwan, age 10, drew a picture of Inline Rollerworks with a spine ramp. I skated that spine ramp. It looks very similar to that, actually. Listen, I would like to take up this space by letting all you breadheads, I'd never considered anybody called a breadhead, I don't think that's a thing, out there know that I started this magazine because I was sick of corporate bullshit, marketing schemes, data polls, and everything else that was telling me that myself and others like me didn't exist. And even if we did exist, certainly couldn't think for ourselves. Well, here we are, telling it like it is, which products are worth using, where and what is happening out there, and who is and isn't eating their Wheaties, misspelled. I have just recently paid the price once again for speaking on behalf of what I believe in and what I have vowed to stand up for, which is the integrity of aggressive skating. I got fired from a job that I had already decided was a bad idea for what I printed about it in the last issue. I thought what I said about Blade Warriors was really mellow, actually. So maybe she got fired from Blade Warriors. I don't know. But nevertheless, I'd like for you to know that regardless of the consequences, I will continue to print and represent your opinions and mine at all costs. We aren't out to hurt anyone. We just want to speak freely about what we believe in. Remember, Daily Bread is your voice. Be heard. Silence is the voice of complacency. Angie. Angie always had a strong opinion on everything. Whether you agree with it or not, you knew where she stood, which I always appreciated with her. Here we go. Some locals only. So we've got Tim Johnson. I don't know who Tim Johnson is. On the top, we've got B. Harden, who we will learn a lot more about when we watch Mad Beef or Hoax 2. Ronald V. Valen. I don't know who that is. Shane Nelson, also Hoax 2, also Harvesting the Crust. Dave Kolosh, who everybody should know. I don't remember, was Dave in Harvesting the Crust? Maybe a bit of Harvesting the Crust, but mostly Mad Beef. Hoax 2, obviously. Dave was probably, of these, Dave and B-Love, I think probably the biggest of the people that were on this page that ended up being a big thing in skating. Sean Badger, I don't know Sean. I've never met Sean. Dan Jensen doing a frontside in the snow in Minnesota. I remember wanting to skate in the snow a lot because the snow was like pillows to us because we were from California and we didn't realize that it was also very, very cold where there was snow. And that means that falling down hurts more and it's harder to jump because your legs are very cold. Bob Nellison in Anaheim doing a tweaked mute off of a picnic table. David Reiner, Auckland, with a interesting hat on, doing some vert skating, I'm assuming. And Hunter Bywaters in Dallas, Texas, probably the same rail that our friend Sean Badger was skating. I don't know either of these guys, but I hope that they went somewhere because that's awesome that they were both in Locals Only. Two friends. Let me tell you something about anger. Let me tell you something about my sports spandex. I don't care about boardwalks. I don't care about races and hockey games. I don't care. None of these things have anything to do with me. They have nothing to do with my sport. All of these things which used to make me so angry are gone now. I no longer are we a small percentage of a greater sport. We are the greater sport. Rollerblading is dead. Let's pay homage to our ancestors and skate or die. Daily Bread, the first magazine. Angie. Or A.E. Harlow Eisenberg, not Angie Moulton. And a few more ads. We've got Streetline frame grind plates. Lightweight, long-wearing, no wax. From $5.99 suggested retail. Charlie with CDS Detroit. CDS Detroit. Was this the first CDS ad? It might have been. So many options. Look at that. Full frame grind plates. Charlie was super progressive. I think these were the first plastic grind plates. I think everybody was making them out of metal, and CDS was making them out of plastic. They didn't have a groove yet, but if you look, they had adjustable slots, which is super interesting. So many different, like, why would you have both of them instead of just a slot on one and then holes on the other? Like, you could get away with just having a slot on one and holes on the other. The reason was there were so few skates out there. All you had to do was figure out what the hole pattern was for 3 skates, and they were all the same because they all had basically the same split. And then this full frame one. Jeez Louise, what are you doing with that? It's a long strip of UHMW. Portable half pipes, Ramp Tech in Falls Church, Virginia. Ramp Tech. Hardcore inline, best selection, absolute lowest prices. Team Paradise. Team Paradise. Everybody knows Team Paradise now. It's interesting how looking at these ads, you can't pick out what the name of the company is. Like if you look at that CDS ad, the name was CDS Detroit. Street line frame grind plates. Was it the brand? I'm not sure. But it doesn't actually say CDS Detroit. Instead, the bottom left, by CDS Detroit. And then this Team Paradise ad, you have to hunt for the name Team Paradise. Hardcore Inline is like the name of the ad if you look at it. Very interesting font selection. Birth Clothing. Another ad that we saw last time. Again, I don't know why they didn't redesign these ads. It's not like they couldn't. They had amazing photographers and a lot of skaters. A bunch of sperm. That's the ad. Daily Bread t-shirts come in many colors. And I guess you send this in to get a t-shirt. Australians John Pollard, Cal Mulvey, and Scott Crawford dressed to kill. Scott definitely looks like he's going to kill someone in that picture if you touch him the wrong way. John Pollard does not look like he's going to kill anyone. He's got beads around his neck with white sunglasses. John ended up being a movie star, basically, TV star on, I guess it's like their version of 90210 in Australia when he was around this age. So a little forecasting here, foreshadowing, I guess, because definitely dressed to kill on the TV. The Hoax and Inline Crime. There it is. First ad for The Hoax, an actual ad with the cover. This photo was on the cover. I'm not sure why the crosshairs. I don't know if they're shooting Arlo with a gun or what. He's committed a crime, so they're going to shoot him. T-Bone Films presents the inline skate film that all others will be judged by. How true they were. How true they were. I don't know what the contemporary version of that is. Maybe like Words or Drip Drop or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the contemporary film that all others will be judged by. But there were definitely some crazy videos in the past. The Hoax was the first, without a doubt. Dare Dare was the first of the first. But this was like, is it as good as The Hoax? No, I don't know. The tricks aged really well in The Hoax. I should watch that again. Pat Parnell skateboards, skimboards, and surfs. Skating pools is second nature to him. Pat Parnell with one wrist guard in a pool. And looks like somebody filming in the bottom right with a little hat that says Groove. So maybe this was in the bottom line. Photo Just D. And I love the little Daily Bread dude in the bottom right corner of this page. It's very, very cool. I had a t-shirt with that guy, actually. Sublime. The actual Sublime. So I don't know how, but they were friends with the guys with Sublime, with Bradley. Very weird. I got to get that information, that story sometime from Jess. But they knew Sublime really well. And, Sublime was an amazing, 90s group, like reggae kind of style to them. But very, unique sound. Super, super inspirational group. As I walked into the liquor store, my eyes were drawn to the big-breasted woman on the hardcore print porn mags. Hello, everyone. I think this is for all ages. I don't know, but I apologize if any children are watching this. I purchased a Gatorade and walked out front to wait for Doug and Jess, all the while playing Sublime songs over and over in my head, trying to mentally prepare myself for the meeting. The reality of what was about to happen slapped me in the face as the stench of dog piss started to take over the corner. Bradley's home is above the liquor store and reminds me of a New York studio. Enter Doug Jess. Doug yells at Brad to come down and unlock the gate. His home is cluttered with instruments, shoes, amps, speakers, and an occasional beer bottle. Above the couch, which is across from his hippie-style platform bed, is a Sublime Review memorial. Enter Brad, the digital ambassador. Brad walks barefoot through the sands of his own world. The body that encases the mind and voice of my favorite musician sits himself on the floor with his dog, Louie. You can hear and see Louie in every album. Sublime has just returned from tour, and Brad seems extremely exhausted. Enter Opie, artist, occasional drummer, and insane inline skater. Oh, there you go. I didn't know Opie was potentially part of the group. I don't know. But the fact that he skates, there's the connection. The phone rings and Opie answers, speaking ghetto Spanish, then passes the phone to Brad, who also speaks Spanish. Brad decides to go over to Mike's, Sublime manager. As we all leave the apartment, Lou included, a lady garbed in a hospital gown asks Jess if she can feel his long hair. Her arm is covered with track marks, her voice just one of the many you can hear throughout all of Sublime's music. They sing the world as they sing the world as they see it, straight up. In her grassy yard, Eric, Bradley, Opie, Jess, and Molly, and Moi, I guess, whoever did this. Where did you get the name Sublime? Brad, my girlfriend Erica. Opie, your girlfriend is Sublime. How long has Sublime been together? Since 1988, I think. We just jammed together mostly. We were in bands before, just mess around bands. I was in a band with a drummer, and then we all got together and said, hey, let's start a band. We are all original members now. What is the eventual goal of the band? To make a living doing what we love to do, I guess, and to play good songs. That's the bottom line, staying true to your roots. Once you start writing shit, it's time to stop. Because you've got to remember why you started writing the shit in the first place. You got to remember back to when you were in the 9th grade sitting at that desk, writing these songs. What made those things special? What makes those things poignant? Like Alexander Pope said, true wit is nature to advantage, the rest which is so oft thought, but never so well expressed. That's what good poetry is. That's what good art is. And when you start bastardizing art, it's time to throw in the towel. Oh, I didn't skip. I'm sorry. This is the page that I was reading from. I'm going to have a drink while you take it all in. This says 40 Ounce to Freedom at the bottom, which was one of the songs and one of their most famous albums. And here's a page that's very difficult for me to read. Opie, how did you get into inline skating? Meanwhile, Opie is changing his wheels, which are worn down to the core. At Doug's party in Laguna, he was showing a video of Chris Edwards jumping off a balcony onto a vert ramp. Opie gets up and skates down the sidewalk. How do the wheels feel? Kind of fucking sharp. Kind of weird. What do you think of inline skating? I think it's easier to be fucking on two wheels, you know? And be moving a lot faster than on a skateboard. You can get way more air. You don't have to fucking grab your board or carry it. I'm reading it, and I apologize that there's a lot of bad words, but I'm going to read it as it was written. Eric, do you skate? Yeah, kinda. I busted my knee a month ago walking downstairs. Brad, do you skate? No answer. What are you trying to achieve with your music? My main goal is just put down a drum track and a groovy bass line and a nice sweet vocal melody. KRS-One said, you try it, you let it down, put it down, and find a way and try to stop it. But change it and rearrange it. Be a producer. Don't test the microphone because you'll always be a loser. Words to live by. Well, there you go. Product scoop. This is always fun, looking back. Rollerblades Tarmac CE is a skate riddled with contradictions. It is the first skate ever designed specifically for street skating, a sport which is trying desperately to disassociate itself from the shadier aspects of inline skating, yet it is packaged in a box decorated with racer blades and power blades, rollerblades, racing, and hockey skates, respectively. The Tarmac CE is concrete proof that Rollerblade acknowledges the aggressive market and is ready to start catering to it. Yet in the new blade manual, which accompanies every purchase of rollerblade brand skates, including the Tarmac CE, there is no mention of extreme inline skating anywhere. Not even in the section which lists racing, hockey, and cross-training as cool things to do with inline skates. The Tarmac CE is Chris Edwards' signature skate, yet it only bears his initials. It is a street skate, but it has an all-metal wraparound grind plate, perfect for ramp, but not ideal for street. Those grind plates were not perfect for ramp. They were very thin and flimsy. They were like aluminum, very thin, like, I don't know if they were aluminum or steel, but definitely not recommended. I would not recommend those grind plates if you were reading this in 1993 and got yourself a pair. In addition to the metal grind plates, the Tarmac CE comes with 56 millimeter 88A hyper wheels, lace-up liners, heel tightening power straps, and a hop-up axle kit system. Hop-up kit axle system, I think, meant that the spacers, since back in the days they were using 6 millimeter axles, the bearing spacers were those 6 millimeter, like ones that had like kind of like a dumbbell, where they had the little thing that stuck out. So the 6 millimeter axle would go through, and then it would fill up the 8 millimeters in the bearing. I think the hop-up kit was metal versus the plastic or nylon that they were using. Yet it comes with a brake still on, which is typically the first upgrade any street skater makes. Very strange to have a brake on the Tarmac CE, that's for sure. For all of the confusion surrounding the Tarmac CE, one thing is incredibly clear, and that it is a great skate. In fact, it is very likely the best skate ever made, yet Rollerblade only manufactured 10,000 pairs. 10,000 pairs. That's a lot of skates. That's a lot of skates. I bet USD is not making 10,000 pairs of any skate nowadays. I would be very curious how many pairs of the Derek Henderson SL that Razors makes. I don't think it's going to be 10,000. I give up. Look for the complete review of Rollerblade's Tarmac CE in the next issue. Rosie's is developing a new skate for 1995, which will feature their new lowrider frame. The frame is designed to increase stability and control by lowering your center of gravity, and should also reduce strain on your ankles. All of the specs aren't confirmed yet, but the biggest wheel the lowrider frame will hold will probably be 67 millimeter or 65 millimeter wheel. So 65 being a low profile, that is telling. Nowadays we've got, balance frames fit 58s, and that was probably one of the lower frames that came out. I think Physics fit 56s. Abel's probably fit 56s, maybe 58s. Those are low rider frames. 65 flat, nobody makes a 65 flat frame now. Symmetrics, mushroom blading, the mega frames, I guess. There's not a ton of them out there. And they're definitely not low. Well, I guess it was inevitable. The ultimate evolution of the anti-rocker wheel is here. The creative minds at CDS Detroit have come up with yet another use for plastic. Grindstones are 50, 45 millimeter, 52 millimeter, and 57 millimeter solid plastic wheels. They don't really have a shape, just narrow cylinders with a flat profile. They look like white hockey pucks with a small hole in the center for axle systems to run through. They don't use bearings, they never touch the ground, and offer minimal resistance to whatever you're grinding. They're harder than any polyurethane wheel could ever dream to be. The ultimate anti-rocker wheel? Grindstones come in sets of 4 and include a pair of CDS grind plates. They include a pair of grind plates. How funny. They have a suggested retail price of $23.99. CDS Detroit also offers a grindstone package with an inside grind plate for sculpted frames without wheel wells. The grindstones that come with the inside grind plate kit are only 3/4 the width of the original grindstone, so that everything can be mounted between the rails. This opens the hardcore market to include skaters who have anything besides Lightning or Lightning TRS skates. Super interesting. So the first UHMW grind wheels back in '93. It's interesting. And then the inside grind plate, I don't know what that was, but potentially a grind plate that goes inside like a grind plate and anti-rocker wheels that go inside the frame. Super interesting. They had to do so many different hacks to figure out ways to skate back then because nobody was making them for them. Pain Cheaters, the handmade pads out of Massachusetts, have come out with a new knee pad. The new pads are an improvement on what were already killer pads to begin with, so check them out. It takes them 7 hours to make each pad. 7 hours to make each pad, that's a lot of work. I never heard of them. I don't know that they were any good. Ooh, Urban Havoc. Number 1. Dick 94. Doing like a shifty front side on a rail, lands the rail, jumps over a car. It's a comic. He swipes some flowers from a bush, and there's a cat that's angry at him. And he's skating very fast while a dog is peeing, and he says, "Arf." And then he's skating on the street, and a man in looks like a taxi cab, probably not though, is yelling out, "Effing freak." Then he jumps over something really high, maybe. There's an airplane in the distance. He does some sort of a stop, like a T-stop, power slidey sort of thing. And then he gets the girl. He says, "Hey, babe." And she is not impressed. She says, "What took ya? What took ya, mate?" This is a crank straps ad made in Australia. Right to all the information. Super interesting. Crank Straps was an awesome company. I loved the logo, just the fist grabbing the strap. It's very cool. Urban Havoc. It's havoc out there. Look out. So whiskey's a little hot. Getting a little bit more burn than normal. And it's just a Scotch thing. I'm not a big Scotch drinker. I'm on the right page, yes. Arlo Eisenberg likes little shirts. There's Arlo. Is that El Toro? I think it is. Frontside on the crazy fast rail. I think it is El Toro. I've never been to El Toro, so I don't know, but that's the only 20 stair that I know of. This was in a video called Vertical Impact, and you can see him skating it and explaining how to do this trick. He did this a lot to land this trick, because this is a very steep rail to be frontsiding. The Tale of Two Rails, one that worked. Tom Heiser, Mizzou grind, downtown Atlanta. Those famous Atlanta square rails, Tom Heiser misspelled. Doing a Mizzou. Tom killing it. Tom now I don't know what his title is, but one of the main men over at Rollerblade doing product design and marketing. And one that didn't. Mike O'Sweet, Opalic Soul Rail, Los Angeles. That's a beautiful rail. I wonder if that rail is still there. I'm sure somebody will tell me. Very nice. That's what happens sometimes when you're skating. You fall down. It hurts. When anyone mentions the word trade show, my mind is flooded with memories of trade shows past. I can remember seeing my first snowboard, attending the best parties of my life, hanging with friends you only see at trade shows. But most of all, I remember working it, getting everything and anything you can for free with the least possible effort. Trade shows would supply my wardrobe with a year's supply of free t-shirts and all of the snowboard equipment my little heart desired, not to mention chapstick and shoes. My favorite trade show has always been the SIA ski show in Las Vegas. It was at this show a few years ago that I first saw the aggressive side of Team Rollerblade. In shows past, a typical rollerblade show consisted of hip-hop dancers and some hip-hop music and some flashy dancers. Maybe it was the skateboarder in me, but I always thought rollerblade shows were stupid until I saw Chris Edwards, Jimmy Trimble, Pat Parnell, Jess Dearenforth, and Angie Walton. I thought I was the only person who had ever thought about inline skating on a ramp. Silly me. At that time, Rollerblade and Bauer were the only inline companies at the show. Rollerblade and Bauer, that puts you back. Were the only inline companies at the show. In just 2 years, there is now an entire inline section. That's what they call a bubble, kids. Everything you can think of was there at the 94 show. The SIA show is divided into 2 sections, the snowboard section, cool people with tattoos and nose rings, and the ski section, suits and stuffy people. The only bad thing about the inline section was the location. It was tucked in the back of the ski section. There was one low wheel company in the snowboard section, FR Progressors. I wonder if that's FR. FR meaning lighted up was well received by the skateboard and snowboard industries as well as the inline skaters. FR's slogan, "Your wheels suck," bothered most of the inline companies. That's FR. I asked 5 people who attended the show, what do you remember the most? Jess Dearenforth. All of the inline products together in one section with a ramp in the middle. You could see the aspect of the sport changing. Terry Jenkins. There was a definite lack of pretty girls, but the skating was rad, so it was okay. Judy Elms. The Luxor Hotel and Angie's consistent winning on the slot machines, the long walk to the inline section, the bumps in the ramp, and lots of friendly people. Brooke Howard Smith. Everyone had a video. Every booth had some inline video showing Arlo's face. Aaron Spahn. Snowboarders finding their way to the halfpipe towards the end of the show, and one saying, "What a waste of a good halfpipe." The one thing I personally remember the most was the big crowd of snowboarders, skateboarders, and inline skaters who gathered in front of a video of a booth playing Shura's video. This trade show proved that our sport is finally becoming recognized and is quickly gaining respect. And once again, I worked my year's supply of t-shirts, accessories, and some cool inline stuff. Swell Girl. I don't know who Swell Girl is, but she wrote a lot, assuming it's she, wrote a lot of the articles here. You can see not a picture, but a drawing. And they have Skids, which is a brake company, Boss, which is a bearing company, Grips, I don't know what Grips was, Hyper Wheels, Lazy Legs, which is the strap company, Oxygen made skates, of course, and Rosie's with a big half pipe in the middle, people chilling on top of the deck. Somebody with an FR shirt looking on. A picture of Eitan Kramer. Now, I didn't know that this was in this issue. I knew Eitan. I still know Eitan. He is a pretty incredible dude. He was one of the big stars of the X Games era. He was a vert skater primarily. He skated a little bit of street, but primarily a vert skater. He went on to who did he skate for? He skated for Rollerblade, I think. He skated for Senate. You know, he had Eitan Kramer wheels. Oh no, he was FR mostly. FR? Yeah, FR mostly. I think he was FR. Jeez, I forget. It's been a long time. But he was incredible. He was one of those guys that got on Gap and started making a ton of money. He went on, there's a really good interview with him on True Spin podcast, Steve John's podcast with Eitan Kramer, where he talks about the history of himself skating, and he gets into his latest project, Morph Board. So if you go to Target, or if you go, I think they have them at Walmart as well. If you ever see the Morph Boards, which is a skateboard that has two little sections, and you can twist and pop off the skateboard wheels and put on a stick for a scooter attachment, or you can pop them off and put on pogo balls so you can balance and bounce around. He was the guy behind that, and he, I believe, is still with the company. Very impressive what he's done with himself. Super smart dude. I see myself with a Cornish game hen and special sauce. Eitan. Of course, when this came out, we didn't know who Eitan was, so I have not read this since I knew Eitan. It's going to be very interesting. Chris Edwards single-handedly has pioneered the new school of vert skating. Actually, he has pioneered the new school, old school, preschool, and every other school of vert skating. Let's face it, he is our history, and with tricks like his 360 to rocket to revert, he is also still very much our future. But what of our future? Surely Chris can't be the beginning and the end of vert skating. The foundation he has laid is too strong to come crumbling down behind him. So what young guns are waiting in the wings to make their contributions to the direction of our sport? Whose hot little hands will receive the torch that Chris has bore alone for so long, but that will inevitably have to be passed on? If Chris Edwards is the founder and leader of the new school or vert skating, then allow me to introduce you to the new school's class clown, Eitan Kramer. His airs are huge and graceful. He's only been skating 6 months, and he's still young enough to be excited at the prospect of driving. To say Eitan is only 15 is to do a great disservice to his intelligence, maturity, and his incredible sense of humor. But to neglect the mention that Eitan is only 15 is to undermine the magnitude of what he has been able to accomplish in just 6 months of skating vert. I got to spend some time with Eitan in Philadelphia and in his hometown of New York City. We were getting ready for the SIA show in Las Vegas, his first big show, which is where I would finally stop him for an interview. Armed with nothing more than a pen and a couple of skids flyers I managed to pick up for scratch paper, I sat down with Eitan and attempted to conduct an interview. The format of this interview lends itself neither to Eitan's intelligence nor his sense of humor, since I had to have him speak in short sentences and repeat everything slowly 5 times so that I could write it down. How old are you? 15. How long have you been skating? 1.5 years. How about vert? 6 months. Is that true? Yeah. Is that true, Ryan? Ryan was also in the show. Yeah, I saw him skate in the summer and he couldn't even get up the ramp. What's your favorite trick right now? Big stale Japan. What about on street? Handrails. Ryan challenges this statement. Ask Shura. When are you going to learn inverts? When I do. No, whenever I stop bailing. What do you like better, vert or street? Vert. Why? This is a horrible interview. Ryan, you don't even know why? Because it gives you a bigger adrenaline rush. What about cigarettes? Nope. Do you like eating cigarettes? No, I almost accidentally swallowed Steve's cigarette. Steve put his cigarette out in Eitan's drink. You're from New York. What's the scene like there? It's pretty rad. There's a lot of cool skaters. Are you sure that's what you want to say? It's fun. There's no ramps there. It fucking sucks. The street scene's rad. Are your parents going to be pissed that you said fucking? I couldn't care less. Everyone in the room. Oh. Do you run with FR? Yes, I do. Who have been some of your major influences, if any? Eddie Campos, Shura. Mark Shays has entered the room and begs to be listed. No. Mark continues to argue his case. Mark is from New York. Well, in the beginning. Are you going to compete in the NIST tour? Hopefully, if I can. Anything else you want to say? Not really. When are you moving west? I don't know. Possibly after high school. The second half of this interview was conducted in Eitan's hotel room. Why they didn't just do the whole interview at Eitan's hotel room makes no sense to me, but it's fine. It takes place a couple of nights after his first interview and was once again done without the aid of a dictaphone. Daily Bread apparently is on a tight budget. Who are you talking to? My dad. What are you all talking about? Ignores me. Oops, I'm on the wrong page. I need to jump ahead. Sorry. Did you talk to them about changing schools yet, Eitan? Waves me off, goes about winning $5 in quarters at the McDonald's casino. Tell him you're moving to L.A. Eitan flashes a patronizing thumbs up. Isn't it like midnight in New York? Yeah. Are you almost done? Another smartass thumb. This is a horrible interview. I'm going to jump around because this is really bad. So why do you skate? At this point, Eitan's girlfriend, Tia, whom I have since been instructed not to refer to as Eitan's girlfriend, begins answering for Eitan, who eventually becomes frustrated and leaves the room. It makes me feel like I'm flying. It's the closest thing a human can do to flying. You can swim, which has your body in the same position as flying, but you have a tank on your back. You have so much of a risk of drowning. This is a bad interview. Eitan's a great dude, but that was a bad interview. Crypto ad for the Little Rocks. Again, some Inception Little Rock ad with a Little Rock in the inside of the ad. Same ad. I wish they would just change things up. Pain Cheater knee pads. Pain Cheaters. $120 for knees and $90 for elbows. Eternal caps, 1/8 inch thick. I wonder if eternal cap or external cap maybe. 1/4 inch layer of sorbothane super shock absorbing polymer under cap. Pads are open back design for a custom fit and quick on off. Foam wraps around side of knee for all around protection. Good for them. Kevin Day, Pain Cheater knee pads. I hope they did something because they look cool, but it's a lot of money. Especially if it takes them 7 hours per pad. Subscribe, Daily Bread magazine. A lot of weird pictures in this art. Angie doing an invert. Somebody doing a method air. Arlo doing a, kind of looks like a Royale, doesn't it? But it should be a front side. I think it's a front. They didn't know Royales back then. And then Jimmy Trimble doing maybe a 360. Kind of hard to say. Michael Palak shaved off all of his hair, but not before he pulled off this soul rail in downtown LA. It's a really great picture to show what people's skates were like back then. This was the Lightning, and you can see he has the wrench grind plate. He's skating anti-rocker with big ass wheels. Those are probably 70 millimeter Wizards, I think they were called back then. And this was what people wore. I mean, they had wrist guards, they had knee pads with the shorts. No shin guards yet. I don't think they wised up to the shin guard. This was before they got seriously injured on rails and started wearing shin guards. It takes a few knocks to start wearing a shin guard, but then you're shin guard for life. Oh, what happened? Did I lose? I think it ran out of the pictures. Oh no. I know that I have them all. Maybe it runs out. Maybe it has a maximum amount. Let me jump in, see if I can kill some of the pictures. Hold on. I don't know why it's not showing, but there are pictures there. I don't even know what page this is. All right, let's see if that works. Remove. Okay. All right, let's see what's going on. Jump. Jump, 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 jump. There we go. All right, there's Mike. This is Mike doing the soul. There might be a max amount of pictures that I can have. This happened last time. All right, junk closet. Here's a bunch of shit that we could... A lot of swearing in this magazine. I don't think it's necessary. Here's a bunch of shit that we couldn't fit anywhere else in the magazine, but we thought you should know. CDS Detroit is going to sponsor 250 street skaters. All right, go on with your bad self. They're trying to promote safety and will only flow product to skaters willing to sign a contract saying they will always wear skating a helmet. I love that. That's so awesome. I wonder what that was all about. Very interesting. Rollerblade is under serious pressure from the IISA to take the metal grind plate off the Tarmac CE. Apparently they think that it promotes destructive skating. That's super interesting. Super interesting. Team Extreme is extremely busy, has been getting many pros and AMs a lot of work. Team Extreme supplied the half pipe for Daily Bread's skateboard BMX inline jam at Universal Studios. for a new show on ESPN called Burnt Toast. I wonder if Burnt Toast ever came out. I wonder if anybody has any footage of Burnt Toast. I'll have to look for that sometime. Tom Fry is skating again after several months out since his knee injury. Damn, Tom Fry has always had knee surgery. For as long as I've known Tom Fry, he's been having knee surgery. Australian-owned wheel company Cosmo will be sending Tom over to America in July. Eddie Campos above loves lasagna, but not as much as he loves New Jersey. Topless Gumby. I never knew the difference between a Gumby and a method. I don't know that there was a difference. But if you look on the deck, you see our friend Eitan Kramer hanging out up there. He's got a FR shirt. Your wheels suck. And Eddie obviously has no shirt. Jess Deerenforth, on the other hand, likes to catch serious air. The crowd at the San Diego Spring Break Festival could really relate to this method. See, like, they're both the same grab. That's why it was so weird. They're both the same grab, but one of them maybe is twisted a little bit, and it makes it a Gumby. Very strange. Like, our tricks needed to be more clean. It's a very unrefined sport. On the deck, though, you see our friend Brooke Howard-Smith over on the right. Some white skates and pants. Skating vert wearing pants. I am of the opinion that you shouldn't skate vert wearing pants. I think that skating vert wearing shorts is the way to do it. I think that's a classic look. And I think wearing pants looks weird. That's my opinion. Not bad for a girl. We got the Bladies coming out in full force. This is Angie Walton with a stale fish. Photo Dan Joyce. Looks like she's getting some good air there. I don't know how good Angie was, but she definitely is getting some good air. Otherwise, she's coming pretty far out from the ramp. She's going to eat shit. I only skated with Angie a couple of times. She was always so busy with Daily Bread. But she had a mini ramp in the Daily Bread offices in San Diego, and we skated that a few times, but it was a pretty buckled mini ramp. It was like an 8-foot half pipe with the flat was way too short. But she wanted vert for some reason, because she didn't want a mini ramp, she wanted a vert ramp. I don't know. It's raining. Laguna was hit pretty hard by the fires. Without any foliage to hold the hills together, the mountains of loose soil have become to mudslides what ice is to water, and I'm afraid that tonight's downpour will be the final melting point. Angie's house rests nervously between these sleeping giants, and I can't help but wonder what's going to become of this when this angry mix of water and dirt agrees to come crashing down. But sitting here at the computer, my mind begins to wander. Thoughts begin to meld, and I'm left thinking about a different kind of landslide. I've been feeling the rumblings of something that is about to crash into our sport for some time now. And like the mudslides here in Laguna, I feel that it's very close. There is a female contingency within our sport, which until now has been relatively scattered and nebulous in form, but which finally seems to be culminating into something very powerful. Angie Walton has always been a force in skating, but never specifically for the female cause. She's always had to spread her energy to include all of skating, in that she couldn't focus solely on that how women fared in the sport, but that skating was a sport at all. It is very much to her credit that our sport is where it is today. But now that skating does exist, and now that Angie has created a voice for skaters in Daily Bread, what about her? What about her voice? If Angie has something to say, you'd better believe that she's going to be heard, not just as a skater looking out for the sport, but as a woman who is a skater looking out for herself. The rain is getting heavier. And now we have a bunch of pictures of girls in bikinis riding rollerblades. I don't know where these pictures are from, but bikini girls in rollerblades with their faces blocked out, talking about girls in rollerblading. The pictures of the girls rollerblading are not wearing bikinis. They are wearing shorts with occasionally tank tops, occasionally shirts, and boneless knee pads. I know that the hills are gathering their forces before their attack, and I know that all I can do is wait. There's been a small exodus of women to Southern California. They are gathering their forces. Some of them have always been in Southern California, but have only recently come to Angie's aid. Their movement is gaining momentum rapidly. Angie, Katie, Judy, Teresa, Donna, and Kate have all been doing something for women in skating just by being women skating. But in each other, they have found solidarity and strength. The rain is leaking through the roof. By joining forces, they have realized that they can be more than just women who skate. They can ensure that women who skate will always have a place and a voice and respect in our sport, which is so new that we are still very much in control of the shape it takes. We've had the benefit of watching other rebel sports evolve over the years, and now have the opportunity to take what is good for them and avoid what is wrong. This sport will not become the elitist boys club that has claimed the soul of some alternative sports before us. Sadly, there's a lot more boys skating than girls. Our women won't allow it. Our sport won't tolerate it. In directing the sport, we will steer it clear of the misogyny that has plagued skateboarding, that has reduced women to decorative status symbols like baggy jeans, accessories to the skaters. Every day a new letter comes in from a skater somewhere in the world who is desperate to make a connection to others like her in her sport and be heard. That's very, very poignant. I wish that it had happened, but I feel like with skating being participated mostly by young boys, it was bound to happen that the way that girls were treated back then was not the way that they should be treated. I do think that they're making some big strides now, and the women that are skating now, I feel, are seen as equals. They dress how they dress, and they do their thing. And there are some amazing skaters who are women now, better than a lot of the guys. So I think that this has eventually happened, but it took a long time for us to get that point where people didn't assume that it was an elitist boys club, even though in a lot of ways it still is. Girls Are Yucky questionnaire. Angie Walton. I'm not going to read through these. I think it's great that they had the things. Feel free to download the PDF if you like. Again, the little interviews from people that we're not really talking about. It's super interesting. This is a big one. So this is a picture of a naked woman. There's stuff covering the things, but it's definitely a lot of naked. There are some pictures though. Bethany Miller, who must be, I don't think she had a interview, but must be, 9, maybe 8, maybe she's stalling, but definitely killing the vert ramp. Absolutely love it. And then Kate Gengo, who was in the other Daily Breads, representing New York. Next page, a sequence of women with bathing suits and butts. We're just looking at butts all around the bottom. And then there's a Teresa Anderson doing an invert. I'd love to learn inverts. I think inverts are cool. Never knew Teresa. I don't know Teresa. I don't really know that name. There are a lot, which is awesome, especially at this time. It was super important to show women skating because, again, it's mostly men in the magazines, and that's not okay. Katie Bloomer. I never knew Katie. Judy Elms. Again, never knew Judy as well. A lot of these women, I never knew their names. Netta Gade. I knew Netta. Netta and one of Ethan's friends, Jason, I don't remember his last name. They were dating a bit, and Netta was always really cool, really nice, really nice girl. Great skater too at the time. Like, she would definitely hold her own with the other women. There was a gap though. I mean, doing what Chris, I think Fabiola spoke to it in her podcast, there was a gap between where the women were airing and then where the men were airing. And Fabiola was the first to like really change that gap and air as high as the guys. which is why she won all the competitions, because she was like 5 feet above any other woman vert skater. But I remember watching Netta skate a street more than vert, which was cool, because we didn't see a lot of street skaters. Most of the women back then were vert skaters. We didn't see a lot of street skaters. Picture of a bunch of ladies on the vert ramp, again in the outfit with the baggy shorts and shirt with boneless knee pads. The rain keeps getting heavier. Something big is about to happen. Once this landslide gets going, there will be no stopping it. You can only hope that you're not in its path. There's a rumor that Rollerblade will be discontinuing their size 4 TRS, used by many women. I don't think these hills can hold much more water. They are already pissed off that they can't even get a good skate in their size that holds 4 wheels. I don't think they're waiting to be catered to anyone. I can feel the earth starting to rumble. Super interesting. So then they didn't have smaller wheels, so they would ride 72s or 80s. And if the frame was too short, they would just put 3 wheels on there. So you would just see 3 by 80, which I guess, I mean, I don't know why they didn't put the wheels super close to each other and do a 243, but I wasn't in charge back then. I didn't make the frames. Not for cow tipping in the sun. Shove It. I never knew Shove It. I don't know the name. What's interesting, though, is the address. 1763 Placentia in Costa Mesa, 92627. Our address when we moved down to Southern California was Placentia as well. It was 2060. I don't know how I remember that. But you can do Google Maps and put in 2060 Placentia, and you'll see the office complex. If you go back to VG17, and you see Rob G's section that I introduced Rob G, you'll see the USD 50/50 in England warehouse that we had, and you'll see a man in front with a judo stick doing Tai Chi sort of moves with a karate kicks. Very interesting. VG17, 2060 Placentia. That's the old address. I went by looking at my one of my Southern California trip videos and went back to the old warehouse, and there's a fence around it now. I couldn't get back there, unfortunately, but that's where it was. Extreme only. Hard 85A Giants. How big were they? 76s, I think? 76, 85? Hyper wheels on Transistor Lane in Huntington Beach. Arlo's nice backside. So on the next page, you'll see a sequence of him doing a backside. There weren't a lot of backsides. Backside grinds were really hard. Everybody was frontsiding, and backsides were very blind. Again, Arlo just pushing the limits. I mean, nobody was doing these tricks. First get sponsored. There is no sense in risking personal injury or death without getting paid for it, or at least getting free product. In this case, I had sponsored by Cosmo and the clothing company Grind Inc. Backsides are blind. Unlike a frontside, you can't spot your landing the whole way. Instead, you have to look down the rail and focus on where you are going to land. The real key to this trick is in the jump. Think about landing high on the rail and on top of it. This seems obvious but cannot be emphasized enough. The worst thing you can do is undercommit on the jump. Very true. As long as you get on top of the rail, even if you don't lock on, you can jump out of it. But if you undercommit, you will clip your heels and are guaranteed to get jacked. I've never clipped my heels with a backside, and I think it's because of this. I always remembered that. I have jumped too high on a backside, and I've slipped out, and especially on ledges, slip out and fallen backwards, and that really hurt. Make sure you are not wearing clothes which inhibit your movement. Here I am wearing extra wide untapered pants by Grind. and a comfortably snug t-shirt from Cosmo. Always get a sponsor's plug-in if you can whenever you're writing a tip trick. Once you are locked on, you will have some time to kill while you are sliding, waiting to reach the bottom of the rail. This is the best photo opportunity, so attempt to strike some stylish pose. I like to imagine I am surfing or pretend I am a ninja. Remember to keep your body open to the camera and to keep your arms out to the side so as to not obstruct the view of your sponsor's logo. Notice here the entire Cosmo logo is completely visible. Leaving the rail to fakie is always a nice touch. Go home and look at your photos. When writing your how-tos, remember to mention your sponsors as often as possible. And here's the sequence. Starts in the top right. That outfit, Lord, those pants. And he is super anti-rocker. Like, I don't know what size those wheels are in the outside, like 76s maybe. Those sure don't look like Cosmo wheels. I don't think they made wheels that color. Big backside though. And that's Brian Konoski hanging out on the rail. Brian Konoski, this same rail is the rail that he front sides on the picture that we were just talking about. Big trick. And to fakie. Landing fakie is one of those things that's just really cool for rollerblading. I try to land fakie off of anything that I do. It's just a really fun feeling. And I think it looks a lot cooler than landing forward. Boom. Your wheels suck. That's dropping the mic right there. FR, the only wheels made solely for progressive skaters. Solid core, natural urethane. The right sizes and shapes for what you do. 55, 60, 65, and 72. That's like perfect for now. I mean, 55, that might be a little small for some of us. But 60, 65, and 72, who doesn't want that? That's a great setup. We want AMs who live this sport. In 20 words or less, write us why Elvis is king. FR Progressors. That was the original name. FR Progressors. Next page, Ramp Jam. That is not me holding the photo. The page actually has people holding it. Ramp Jam. On Sunday, March 13th, Inline Rollerworks, along with myself, JT, held the first annual Ramp Jam. Ramp Jam 94 had a rather small turnout, but the competition was fierce. On the judging stand were Katie Bloomer and myself. In the beginning class, we had some newly discovered riders from the Marino Skate Park. Teresa Anderson, who pulled consistent methods and mute airs and flawless one-handed invert. Skated well enough to take third. Second went to Art Gavigan, the man with the nose ring, who was pulling nice airs and lots of variations on the coping, including some killer rail slides, but it was not enough to take first. First went to Kyle Keller, who was pulling nice airs and a variety of lip tricks. No picture of Kyle Keller. Kyle Kelly, that might be him. The awesome skating continued in the intermediate division. In third place, we had Encinitas local Tim Iverson. He ripped the ramp corner to corner with stylish grabs. The contest experienced its most frightening moment when Tim lost control after an invert, skated off the ramp, and collided with the ladder. He went from 30 miles per hour to 0 miles per hour in 0 seconds. Feet first. The result was a compound fracture to his right leg. Ouch. He was already 40 seconds into his run, so we judged it accordingly, and he slammed into a third place. Hope you recover soon, Tim. In second place was Manuel Cruz. He lofted high airs and Neugen, who skated very well. He lofted high airs and performed a range of difficult lip tricks that landed him in first place spot. The advanced division Team Extreme member Eric Anderson took third. In second was Chris Hines. Chris Hines goes on to not really get sponsored by anybody, but he competed in the first NIS. He had the sickest, I think I'm thinking of the right Chris Hines, sickest alley-oop soles. Like, he was the guy that we wanted to emulate for alley-oop soles. I wonder if we'll get to that in one of these issues. He was lofting the biggest air of the day, but failed in style points to capture the first spot. Aaron Boodman skated a very impressive first place run. He had very stylish airs, all grabbed in an impressive array of lip tricks. Add to that some coping slides, and you have a very deserved first place winner. Very interesting. A lot of interesting pictures on that. Big blurry Chris Edwards. Chris Edwards is light years ahead of everyone when it comes to vert skating. He's the only person who does this trick. Contortus, 7 foot plus fern ramp. Contortus would be like a figure 4 leg lock. Like if you were, who was it? Was that Ultimate Warrior? No, who used to do the figure 4? I don't remember who used to do the figure 4, but if you were a WWF fan back in the days, figure 4 leg lock. It's kind of what the Contortus looked like. It's getting the Lightning's flat, 72s probably. Newly discovered, another ad. Exclusive Planet X grinders. These things, I don't know how these things work. Master the art of rail slides with aluminum grinders for only $29.95. Looks like it goes in the middle, which probably had like an arch. They didn't have H blocks, but they probably had an arch. Maybe you drill through. A lot of work. Bike Factory Sports Shop. Knowledge. I'm here to educate or at least try to inform you about wheels. Yep, those damn 8 wheels that sometimes slide when you least expect it, sometimes grip when you can't believe it, and even explode when you can't afford it. Skateboard companies and wheel manufacturers have been playing with urethane formulas for some 20 years. Urethanes are mixed as liquids and either injected or poured into various molds. Injecting is generally a cheaper process than open cast pouring and can lead to a more imperfection in a wheel, such as air bubbles. Open cast allows bubbles to escape, and the wheel is then machined later. The core of your wheel is most likely molded from nylon. This small area, which also contains your bearings, contributes to a wheel's performance as much as any other variable. So now, what are other variables that affect the performance of a wheel? Size, profile, hardness, and rebound. Let's first talk about size. The diameter of a wheel determines 2 things, acceleration and its max speed. Small wheels don't go as fast as big wheels, but they do accelerate faster than their bigger brothers. So unless you're into skating 5 wheels in a tucked position, you don't need big wheels. What you may want is smaller wheels that give larger gaps for grinds, faster acceleration for general street, and ramp and a lower center of gravity for increased stability. Make sense? The profile is the description of the shape of the wheel, or more precisely the rolling surface of the wheel, which contacts the ground. The more pointed shapes are good for speed, as there is less rolling resistance. But the drawback is there is a loss of stability. Wheels that have a flatter surface, where more of the wheel is touching the ground, will roll slower, but the stability of the skate is greatly improved. The hardness of a wheel is determined by a machine called a durometer and is measured on the A scale. As I'm sure you all know, the higher the number, the harder the wheel. Hard wheels slide well, but tend to lose traction on certain surfaces. Try mixing sizes and hardnesses. My outer wheels are 62mm Cosmos, and in the center I have harder 55mm Cosmos rockered down so that all wheels touch flat. It works for me. Lastly, we will look at rebound, which also happens to be one of the most unusual quality of the wheel. Rebound is how much energy the wheel consumes and then returns back to the ground. Low rebound wheels will be slow and tiresome to skate on. High rebound wheels will be faster and seem effortless to skate on. Try dropping different wheels from the same height and watch the difference. After all is said and done, choosing a wheel comes down to personal preference and your type and style of skating, so experiment with different wheels to find out what's good for you. This article was compiled with the help of Tyndall, John McFadden, John, and Jim Ford. Cosmo, Hyper, Crypto, and Crypto. And it was written by TJ. I don't know who TJ is, but that's who wrote it. Very true. Something that people didn't think about. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the profile of the wheel makes a huge difference in controllability and wheel bite. And I never even considered that back in the days. You know, it was always the size of the wheel and the hardness, but I never thought about profile for grinds. I always thought about profile for stability. You know, if you land, you want a flat wheel, which is why we all skated square, like flat wheels. And I don't believe that's the right wheel for most people. I think a rounded wheel is probably the right wheel for most people. Maybe something with a more pointed wheel with a flat, like the 58 millimeter Fitty Fitty wheel, or the Conjure, what are they called? The Conjure wheels that I can't remember the name of. The ones with the spaceman. I can't remember the name. It's a big picture of a judo, which is a cool trick. Scott Davis hurt his elbow snowboarding. His hip is okay though, and so is this one that he is styling a judo over at Moreno Valley. Seeing some good air off that hip, dude. It's like a good 8 feet out. Very, very nice. Coming up in the next issue, The Roots of Aggressive Skating, a product test of the Tarmac CE, Spring Break Survival Guide, Australian Invasion, and Arlo the Clown. Sounds like a good issue that we should probably read together. New School. This was the Senate ad. This was the one. Senate. New School. Arlo kick-flipping off the roof at the Laguna Ghetto. Kick-flipping off the roof. Somebody should redo this ad. I think that would be awesome. Senate. And it has the Pal Peralta video, or the Pal Peralta logo. Very interesting. Grind plates, 44 millimeter 100A C notes, 44 millimeter 100A bribes, curb lube, t-shirts. There you go. Rossi's ad. And then Mark Heineken skating the Rossi's, what was that, the Moscow? No, the Vert. Rossi's Vert, I think that was what it called. Moscow ramp, right. Very, very cool. 70 millimeter Hyper Fat Boy wheels. 70 millimeter. God, Rossi's was really ahead of its time with this frame. I wish they stuck with it. Ooh, this is a big one. I don't know that we saw this before. Video Groove ad. So, all the Australians doing tricks. Arlo looking very confused. Ethel Dwyer High School, classic Huntington Beach spot. And then Moreno Valley, probably. This issue. So this was the first video magazine, an inline video magazine. This was not the one that Dave Payne did. I think he submitted some clips in Video Groove, and then he started editing maybe video VG2, and then started taking over in VG3. I might be wrong with that. Japan, Puerto Rico, the Australians, the Dare to Air Tour, and a sneak preview of the bottom line. Free Camp Rollerblade membership, a $275 value. If Freddie J. Finkelmeyer appears in your Video Groove, you've won. I wonder if that actually happened. Like, did they have a single VHS tape that they sent out with Freddie showing up? I'll have to get the story from Dave on that. I wonder. And finally, Cosmo ad. The Cosmo Alien. I don't know who did this art, but it was a classic look from Cosmo. They always had interesting art like this. Cosmo remembered fondly as amazing wheels. I don't know that anything compares, but again, I don't know that anybody has any fresh Cosmos that they can skate. So it's a very different time. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was a very fun evening. I hope that everyone is safe out there and having a good week. It's been a long time since we've been able to go out and hang out, and I hope that we can all hang out again in the future. I do this every other week, so next Wednesday at 9 p.m. we'll be doing Gear Talk again. The following Wednesday we'll be back with maybe we'll do Box Magazine. We'll change it up a little bit and do a Box Magazine next week. Hope everybody is good. Have a great time, and thanks for watching.